Shanchib Senhua Chur Nabram Chirwa Jivshawa, Chur Nabram Chirwa Jivshawa Di, Teran Dipa Di, Ndirka Jirmeso, Rigiva, Tievadam, Jigbana Nite, Gang Martieva, Gang Martie, Marshunga, Telan Jigba Gang Mete, Mertive Chulab Zoba Tobano Nisime Balan Jigba Wo. Shanchib Senhua Huare Jirmeba, Ngadam, Nago Jivshawa Tena Nite, Dr. Drup Tapamena Nivar, Manjerte. Gang drop the Bame Bateno Nisame Balanjiba, wo, Shanchu Sanhua Huatsugi, meba. Gunni Numoa, the number of Shanwa Jishawan of Nite, Gunni Numoa Yonsu Shine, a number of Shanwa, La Lomsim Manjishan, Lomsim, Tamchit Lubran Jumbatam, Tumbran Robi Lamtena Nisame Balanjiba, wo, Shanchu Sanhua, Karzungar meba, Oyoadan Sim, Oyoadan Lumsim Batena Nite, Gang Oyoa Mechan Lomsim Sumshipa, Yillam of Shipa, Hubber. Shawa Mabshiba Lobber Shawa don't Jaratin and Nismeba Lanjuba, Wo, Shanchu Sanhua Logzangi, Meba, Shanchipji Semdang, Nyamtuji, Semji Shawa Tena Nide, Gun, Jimmy Semdang Tomber Tona, Tonga Tena Shanchipji Semjam Mela Nyantuji Semjam Mene, Gun Semjim Sanin Somba Ten Nismeba Lanjuba, Wo, Shanchu Sanhua movements in the movements of Jitmeba, Lemba, the Melemba Ter Nide, Gun Melemba Ten, Mamubate, Gun Mamubate, La Toba, Sarah Mashit. Chu Tamchit Mashipper Mashuba than Nisame Balanjiba, wo, Shantu Sanwa, Mugzangi, Mebam, Sanyaf Chigdam, Sanyan Meba Jishawa Tena Niso, Constobr Mashit, Gundostobr Mashit, Sanyaf Chigber Mashin, Sanma, and Sanyan Meber Mashito. Gum Sanyan, Sanyan, Mandra, Talam Sanyan, Sombran Jigbatena Nisame Bago. Shanchib Sanhua Karjir Meba, Gavadam Magava Jipshana Nite, Gang Gavadam Magiva Merlonjam, Samadam Samameba Nisame Bertobana Nisame Balan Jibago, Shanchib Sanhua Sanki Meba, Kanamatu Adam Jibada, Kanamatu Meba Jipsha Tenanide Gunga, Durje start the Raptum Buba Yishiji, Manchanjam, Matura Tena Nisame Bago, Shanchib Sanhua Sanki Lut Meba, Sanki Lut Meba, Gan Tena Zabadam Jibadam, then Zoma. Mepa was Jishan, de Gomyamba Tobe, Zabatan Zaba Mepandishi, Sir, Domashi, Ban, Domashiba, Mepatira Mayamba, Nyamba Nyet Tobagan, Medajan, the Shijim, the Pame Patis Tavan Jibana, Nisame Pa Wo.
Today we'll resume on the Vimalakirti Sutra, and before the teaching, I would like to address two things. The first is that the schedule of this week is Monday and Tuesday is Vimalakirti Sutra, Wednesday is Sigalovada Sutra, and Thursday, Friday is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we'll have Vajrayana class. Next week we won't have a Vajrayana class. And then the week after we'll have two more classes of Vajrayana classes, and then we'll complete this particular teaching. Around May the 1st, which is a holiday over here, I think people really want to leave here and have a holiday. And that's why I want to add another class in this week, and then May the 1st. In fact, we'll finish our Vajrayana class before that. That's the first thing I'd like to address. Second thing is after the Vajrayana class around the mid of May, as I said before, my plan is to teach the Uttara Tantra, the Buddha nature, with the commentary of Junan's commentary. Before Ponsokul Rinpoche passed away, he was teaching the Uttara Tantra with Mipa Rinpoche's commentary, and then he taught with the Junan's commentary. But halfway through, he passed away. And back then, I made the aspiration that whenever I have an opportunity, I will give teachings on this sutra, on this Shastra. Also, I made the aspiration of teaching the 5 Maitreya Shastras. I finished the first 2. The first one, which is the adornment of Mahayana Sutra, and the second one is Uttara Tantra. The next 3 of Maitreya's Shastra are rather short, so I think I will be able to finish translating. And I think in my lifetime I have made the auspicious connection with the Buddha Maitreya, and I really hope that if I don't get enlightened during Shakyamuni Buddha's time, at least since I have a good connection with Maitreya, then I'll probably get enlightened then. Also, this teaching will be translated simultaneously into English as well as Japanese. I will be teaching in Chinese, and they will be translated into 2 languages. I think in the 70s, last century, it was translated into English and propagated in the West. So this particular Shastra on the Buddha nature is rather really famous in the West. My plan is to teach on this particular Shastra for a year, which will be about 1 or 2 classes a week. Why I want to teach this, the first one is because I made the aspiration of teaching the 5 Shastras of Maitreya. And then the second reason why I want to teach this is because the merits of listening to this Shastra is quite great. As it says in the last chapter of this Shastra, it says that someone striving for enlightenment may turn to Dharma kings, offering gold fields adorned with gems of equal number to the atoms in the Buddha fields, and may continue doing so every day. And another may just hear a word of this, and upon hearing it, become filled with devotion. He will attain merits far greater and more manifolds than the virtue sprung from the practice of giving. So, giving flowers or making mandala offerings is not as much as hearing even a word of the teaching of Uttara Tantra. So that is said by Maitreya. And if you believe in Maitreya, then this is the great merit that he mentioned in this Shastra. So the first reason why I want to teach this is that I made the aspiration, and the second reason is that it has great merits. The third reason is many people know that every sentient being has the Buddha nature, but how and why, people probably don't know that. And this Shastra is known as the bridge of Sutrayana and Mantrayana. People whomsoever started with the Sutrayana and then study this Uttara Tantra and then enter the Vajrayana, I think you will build a very solid foundation and will generate great devotion. There are many other reasons, but due to the time strain, I will not continue with the reasons. So you can listen to this class you don't have to listen to this class. It doesn't matter to me that much. If I have only one student, then I will still teach that person. As the Buddha, when he first started teaching, he only had 5 disciples to start with. So for people who have the interest and who have the devotion to listen to it, that would be wonderful. And for people who don't have the devotion, then doesn't matter how great the number of audience would attend to that class, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Anyhow, this is an announcement to prep you beforehand so that you can make arrangements with your schedule, as in any kind of things that we plan to do, any projects that we plan to do in this world, we need to prep beforehand. If I were to go abroad, then first of all, I have to prepare for my luggage a few days, even a few weeks in advance. And similarly, that's why I made the announcement in advance before the actual class, so that you have time to plan. Otherwise, you may come up with the excuses of saying that, oh, I forgot about that class. Anyhow, I really wish that you could uphold a great devotion and a very uncommon faith to the teaching of Uttara Tantra. I feel like my mind is somewhere in the Bardo as I was thinking to teach on the Uttara Tantra today. Anyway, today our class is on the Vimalakirti Sutra. We are on the 9th chapter currently, the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality. This is a wonderful chapter. It has great, profound myth instructions. Many previous masters, great masters in the past, they all felt that the previous chapters are all the kind of roads leading to this chapter that talks to the Dharma Gate of Non-Duality. Just as in the non-dual practice, in the preliminary practices, at first we talk about the common and uncommon contemplation practices, and then in the middle we finally enter into the actual practice. So this chapter is the actual practice, could be considered as the actual practice of this sutra. And over here it talks about the middle way of all the dharmas, of all the teachings. The previous masters all had different categorization of this particular chapter. The previous chapter talks about benefiting others and so on, and then this one talks about benefiting self. And then some other commentaries talks about the chapters before 8th chapter are the chapters on benefiting others and worldly with worldly skillful means and so on. And this chapter is transmundane teaching of the Dharma of enlightenment. For people who have great connection to this teaching, upon hearing maybe 1 or 2 teachings of these 31 bodhisattvas teachings may gain insight or enlightenment even. The 31 bodhisattvas talks about what is the teaching of non-duality, and then at the end, Vimalakirti and Manjushri also talks about the non-duality as a conclusion. There's the Dharma of mundane world, such as karma and so on. And then there's the Dharma of transmundane, because you cannot gain complete enlightenment of thusness by studying the mundane Dharma. or the mundane level, relative aspect of Buddha Dharma. But by listening to the non-duality aspect of Buddha Dharma, you will gain liberation from either Zen Buddhism, the mainland Buddhism, and so on. They all consider that the Vimalakirti Sutra contains the very unique teaching of non-duality. And non-duality is so well known. It is posted everywhere in those 10 monasteries and many monasteries in the monasteries in mainland. Why non-duality? Why dual? Why two? Because you cannot have everything out of one, but and you don't have to count all the others based on 3 or 4. Once you get a hold of what dual means, then you'll be able to understand what 3 and 4 and 5 means. So we have so many of those dualities that you and me, I and mine, and so on. Once you have a grasp of what is non-duality, then you will understand. But is there something that is non-dual? Is there something that is solid non-duality that's not existent either? Because that is also an extreme. The previous masters usually would use a very skillful symbol to break all the extremes. The 8 extremes and the 4 extremes and 8 manipulations. So this is a way of presenting it to people in order to break their grasping towards the extremes and their duality. In Vimalakirti Sutra as well as other sutras, lots of bodhisattvas will show up and talk about their insights and their meditative experience and their level of realization. In the Suragama Sutra, where it talks about the 25 bodhisattvas' realization, as well as perfect realization, where it also talks about bodhisattva's realization. Same as lots of great masters and their level of realization including Pamasambhava and his 25 disciples, as well as the 84 great Mahasiddhas of India. They also talk a lot about their pith instruction as well as their level of realizations. So, we will start also look at the levels of realizations of different bodhisattvas, how they shared their experience of their enlightenment, how they experienced the enlightenment from, or how they expressed enlightenment from different aspects. People usually go to gurus and say that, could you give me a pointing out instruction? Could you give me some blessings? Could you give me some profound teachings? And sometimes even the guru they go to are not the great teachers. And then whomsoever that teacher is with or without enlightenment, then they will pretend that they are giving the pointing out instruction, staring into the space. Stare into the space and don't know what they're looking at, as stated by Khenpo Deba. And they will say, sit down and I'm going to give you the pointing out instruction. They may say it that way. They may pretend that they're giving the pointing out instruction. According to Master Qi as well as Master Jizang, Kuiji, in their commentaries, they have different explanations towards the Bodhisattva's level of realization. I think the previous masters, they had profound understanding of the sutras. Therefore, whenever you have time, I really hope that you would have time to look into the teachings.
接下来开始，讲什么呢？今天我要讲的稍微快一点啊，我也是有原因的。
So today I'm going to speed up.
那么这个时候呢，就是
secret reasons behind it.
不二方面的第9品。那么
This is the 9th chapter.
前面呢，就是已经讲到了那个
In the previous chapters, we've already talked about
就是这个什么普贤摄圣这个菩萨的这个问答，已经就是就回答完了，就是寄送的方式。
The question and answers between Vimalakirti and the Bodhisattva of manifesting forms. And then over here, Vimalakirti then said to the congregation of Bodhisattvas, he said that, good sirs, how does the Bodhisattva enter the Dharma gate of non-duality? Each of you explain this as you wish, as you please, according to your own interest. You can explain non-duality from your own perspective. What is non-duality? Could you explain it? That's what Vimalakirti asked to all the bodhisattvas, asking them to give an oral examination in front of him. I think all the bodhisattvas must be really was paying lots of attention. There are people who attend the oral exam and after class discussion groups, they take careful notes during class and they listen very attentively. Of course, there are people who have great memory, they don't have to do it, but there are people who don't have great memory like myself, then I have to then write down some words to remind myself of the teaching. I think taking notes and making records are really great, including the West and the East. It's a great method. So next, each of the bodhisattvas explain their own realization from different perspectives. According to the Sutra of Manjushri's questions, it says that the various dharmas cannot be categorized into 2 and also not 3. To understand this is to be sufficient in the middle way, which is called the true path. That is the true Buddhahood, or the Prajnaparamita, the Madhyamika's way. We often talk about Madhyamika, the middle way. It's the way that you do not fall into the 2 extremes, but it's not that you stay in the middle, like you stay or walk in the middle of the road. It's not like that either. There's no solid existence of the true middle either. So Vimalakirti start with such a question. Then, based on each bodhisattva's understanding, then they started to explain. Each bodhisattva started to explain. I think they did a wonderful job of explaining. And I really hope that each of you could also try to explain this by yourself. How could you explain in such a way? How could you explain such a term from certain perspective so that you'll be able to understand? The first one is with the assembly. Within the assembly was a bodhisattva named Dharmavikarvana, which means that the autonomous Dharma, or the one who attains freedom with the Dharma. If you're not ill physically, then you have a freedom of your physical body. If you have freedom of your heart, your mind, by avoiding mental illness. So that's the kind of illness. That's a kind of freedom. He then said that sirs, generation and extinctions. Generation is birth and extinction is death, constitute a duality. Since the Dharma was fundamentally non-generated, has no birth, now they are without extinction. It's just like a barren woman's son. If a barren woman cannot have a son, then how could the son who was never born to be dead? That's not possible. To attain this understanding is to achieve forbearance of the non-arising of the Dharma. The non-arising of the Dharma is where you can attain in different stages. So the generation or the birth and death, we think that there is death and there is birth, but really when we look at it from the ultimate point of view, there is really no birth and no death, there's no coming, there's no going, there's no one and there's no many and no other. At the beginning of the roots, stanzas of the middle way, that's what it stated. Now, they're without extinction. To attain this understanding is to achieve forbearance of the now arising of the Dharma. This is to enter the Dharma gate of non-duality. The birth and death, I think we have the most grasping towards it. So, from ourselves as well as others, we often feel that there definitely is a birth and death. But when we look at it from the ultimate point of view, when we look at it from the nature's point of view, there is no birth at all. In the root stanza of the middle way, or the Madhyamika Shastra, Madhyamika Vatara, the fundamental of Madhyamika, it all stated the same. For example, in the root stanza of the middle way, around the first half of it, it is stated that not from itself and not from something else, not from both and not without a cause. Does anything, whatever, anywhere, at any time arise? Things arise based on a cause. And all these kind of arising cannot stand any analytical understanding. This is in fact not just in Buddhism. During your study, during your contemplation and observation, you'd understand this. And once you understand that, once you go through such logical analysis, then it's very easy for you to gain unreturnable faith in Madhyamika teaching. So that's the first one. There's no birth in the Bodhisattva's realization. The second one says is the Sri Gupta Bodhisattva, which means maintenance of virtue. And virtue over here means the one who uphold the truth, because he can maintain the truth and realization. Unlike us, maybe today we have some kind of realization, and then second day we forget about all of our insights and realizations. And then he said that the I and my attributes constitute a duality. I and my clothing, my body, my family, my job, and all of those, what belongs to mine, may appear to be real in the relative world. However, it is because of the existence of self that the self attributes occur. First it comes I and then mine, and because of that, all the sentient beings are still wandering in the ocean of samsara. But through the analytical way of observation, then of Madhyamika, then you'll be able to notice that there is really no I that exists. There's no I, then how could there be mine? Something that belongs to you. Through the observation of no self-nature of I and no self-nature of all phenomena, then you notice that I do not exist. If the bearing woman do not exist, then how could there be an existence of the bearing woman's son? So that cannot happen at all. Then if there is no I and no my, then that's the gate of entering into non-duality. In the Sutra of Great Heap Jewel, where it says that for all internal and external phenomena, it all appears, and it is really illusory emptiness. I have realized that their nature of illusory emptiness. However, ordinary beings, out of delusion and attachment, discriminately think that there is a self and self attributes. And that's just a delusion of ordinary beings. That's really our solid habitual pattern. And once you can break such habitual pattern, you will be able to see the ultimate nature. And then at that moment, all the I and mine are broken. You'll be able to see the thusness of Dhammadhatu. The third one is unblinking bodhisattva. Animisa bodhisattva. Unblinking, no blinking at all. In Tibetan, in English and Japanese, as well as the Sanskrit version, are all saying that it's a non-blinking, unblinking bodhisattva. Why is that? Because this bodhisattva is always staring, looking at the Buddha without closing the eyes, with longingness. And the other meaning behind the unblinking also means that the wisdom eye do not close. In Nanhuai-Jing's version, in the Master Nanhuai-Jing's version, he said that the bodhisattva do not blink in the eye just like fish, because for fish they do not have any eyelids. If the bodhisattva have such a fish eye, then that must be very difficult for the bodhisattva. It could get quite tiring. Another way of understanding it is that because fish do not blinking and do not sleep, do not appear to be sleeping at all times, then they represent diligence. Other than us, we don't want to open our eyes in the morning, kept it closed, and then fishing for the cell phone as well as for the button for the lights. Why we strike, or why in Han mainland monasteries, they would strike the wood fish. It's really a symbol of diligence, and do not close your eyes, and it's a way of reminding yourself. So this bodhisattva do not close their eyes with diligence, and do not close the wisdom eye. And then it says that experience and non-experience, actually over here it means grasping and non-grasping, constitute a duality. If dharmas are not experienced, and then they cannot be attained. Because of unattainability, there is no grasping, no forsaking, no production, and no activity. In our relative world, we have existence, which is samsara, and non-existence, which is nirvana. Yes, relatively speaking, there is. Both of them exist. However, after with careful analysis, you know that the nature of them are extinction. Then there's nothing to grasp anyhow. Because there's nothing to grasp, but then there's nothing to grasp, and there's nothing to non-grasp. You may think that it's a samsaric, it's a suffering. And there's no one that's creating the birth and death and samsara. And then since there's no one that's created the samsara, then there's no one that's in the samsara either. So from the two aspects, the existence or the samsara and nirvana aspect, or the defilement and purity aspect, yes, in the relative truth, they do both exist. However, ultimately, they are nowhere to be found. Once you attain such non-duality, you notice that they transcend both extremes. The teaching on the non-duality may appear to be more acceptable and more welcomed by the ones who've studied Madhyamika teachings, Madhyamika Avatara, Madhyamika Shastra, and fundamental of Madhyamika. If you study those, then you will hear it with such joy. The fourth one, in fact, in terms of the order, Master Ji Qian's version, as well as the Tibetan version and the Sanskrit version, are different than this particular version, as well as the town's version. The number and the teaching are not different. It's just really the order. So it's not the big deal. The Tibetan version is similar to the Sanskrit version, as well as the Ji Qian's version. But after reading carefully, I don't think we need to change the order, because the teaching is really similar. The fourth one is Crown of Virtue Bodhisattva, or Shrikuta Bodhisattva. He is named as Crown of Virtue because he had attained the crown of Samadhi, or the highest level of Samadhi. That's why he's named this way. He then said, defilement and purity, which appears in the relative truth, are real. You can see people who adorn themselves really beautifully. They look like fresh flower. They smell really nice. And another person person may appear to be dressing up in ragged clothing and have bad breath and so on. So, in relative truth, in such a samsaric way, then yes, they do appear. They constitute a duality. If one sees the real nature of defilement, once you see the nature of defilement that is devoid of any kind of manipulation and extremes, then there is no characteristic of purity. Once you see the nature of defilement is non-existent, then how could there be a solid existence of purity? If you don't have left, then how can you have a right? If you don't have an east, how can you have a west? Because they're comparative, then that's the reason behind it. Why once you see the nature of defilement, you will see that there is no purity either. So all of this, yes and no, right and wrong, defilement and purity, all of those will all become extinction of characteristics. Just as what is said in the Heart Sutra, it is no pure, no defiled, it's not pure nor defiled, not increased nor decreased, and so on. In the Vajrayana, where we have the skillful methods, where people would take the 5 kinds of flesh and the 5 kinds of amrita. But in our real life, these are the kind of graspings that we hold on to tightly in our life and our habitual pattern way of thinking. But its nature is really non-dual.
Over
here, excellent constellation. It is Sunakshatra, which is similar to the Buddha's cousin's name. This bodhisattva attained the samadhi of sun and constellation, as it is stated in the Lotus Sutra. He then said that emotion and mindfulness, or here motion and mindfulness, some explain very differently. Some say that emotion means distraction, which is the perceived, and attention, which means the perceiver. Once you have something to grasp onto externally, then you have this mind of grasping to it as well. So the perceiver. Distraction. Another way of explaining it is that emotion means it's a subtle way before grasping. And then the next one is rather already grasping to the external phenomena. And then motion in a different Another commentary says that motion is thinking, and the second one is remembering. So different commentaries have different explanations. Anyhow, the motion and mindfulness constitute duality. If there is motionless, there is no mindfulness. If there is no perceived, there is no perceiver, and vice versa. if there is no mindfulness, then there is no discrimination. If there is no perceiver, or if there's no mind, then there is no dualistic thoughts. To penetrate this is to enter the Dharma gate of non-duality. According to the Zen Buddhist tradition, this is quite famous. According to the sixth patriarch according to the Platform Sutra of the story of sixth patriarch, where Master Huineng went to Guangzhou province, and there's a master who was teaching at that time, and two of his disciples were debating whether if it is the wind that is moving or the flag that is moving. Upon hearing this discussion, Master Huineng said that it is neither the wind nor the flag, but the mind that is moving. The master, upon hearing his response, was quite impressed, and then requested him teaching or talking about his understanding of non-duality. In Mahayana, Mahamudra, it talks about the three aspects. The first one is mind abiding and mind moving, or abiding in the moving mind. Sixth patriarch then taught them the teaching of duality, of non-duality, how length of long and short and big and small, all of those are no other than duality, are of non-duality. Now the sixth one is Sunetra Bodhisattva, or the excellent eye Bodhisattva. He uses his excellent eye to often seize the Buddha. Our eyes are sometimes quite blurry, especially with the growth of age. The eyes are not as good as before, they're not as clear. But this Bodhisattva, excellent eye Bodhisattva, he sees everything ever so clearly, the truth ever so clearly. Then this Bodhisattva said that the single characteristic and the non-characteristic constitute a duality. Something that has a character, for example, white or red, all of those characters or all of those colors, or the characteristic of emptiness or of existence. Those white and red and the forms and so on, they do exist in our relative world. If one understands that the single characteristic is the non-characteristic, and does not grasp the non-characteristic but enters into universal sameness, this is to enter the Dharma gate of non-duality. So at that time, there is no grasping towards characteristic or non-characteristic. The characteristic of purity and filthy, the characteristic of existence or non-existence. There's so many different forms and there's so many different characteristics that we grasp onto. In the King of Samadhi Sutra, it says that existence and non-existence are extremes. Purity and impurity are extremes as well. Thus, having relinquished both extremes, the wise one do not even dwell in the middle. So this is really important one to remember. Whatever form or whatever characteristics that we grasp, that we perceive are not the true characteristics. Once we may perceive characteristics, and the non-characteristics are in fact non-dual. Any kind of characteristics, any kind of things that we grasp onto, the external forms, any kind of things that appears outside. In the adornment of Mahayana Sutra, it says that whatever we grasp onto are the forms of our heart, of our mind, and those are the ones that need to be cut through, as well as our ordinary beings, whom have so much grasping towards the dualistic characteristics. Upon hearing lots of news, I notice that people have such deep grasping towards the characteristics. People would keep even one harmful word in their heart for their lifetime. And if one says that your life is not worth living, then the person would just jump off the bridge, things like such. They really grasp onto such kind of such kind of phenomena and such kind of characteristics of whatever appears. I heard a story of how a couple went to the hospital because the son who was riding a motorcycle and had an accident and died because of that accident. Then the mother at that time blamed the father, saying that you bought him the motorcycle and you should be the one who died, who dies at this moment. And then the father right away committed suicide, and same as right after the mother did too. In a very short period of time, the three members of a family all died. People grasp onto the characteristics of words. People may say that you are terrible, and then the child would hold such deep grudge to their parents and never forget about that. I think this is really a lack of education of lack of understanding of characteristics. Once you understand that there's really no such nature of those words that's truly existent, then there's no need of grasping onto those words either. In our society nowadays, all the young people's mind are so fragile, and it is mostly because the influence of the propaganda and the media. People nowadays really like to copy some famous celebrities. For example, in a movie, if the celebrity committed suicide in the movie and acting such scene due to the fail of career, then people whomsoever watch some movie, they think that there is such choice and would commit suicide when they encounter the same obstacles in their life. By understanding that how the relative world is really illusory, then we won't hold such grudges and we won't have such impulsive actions in our life. This is not.
这些道理啊，就是真的是明白的话呢，也许可能你的这个各方面是非常
In our relative world, once you understand such profound teaching, it will be very helpful to you. It is not a fairy tale. It is not a story or so, but it will definitely give you practical helps. Many people are probably very good at talking, just like I do, and not able to practice this in life. But I think upon practicing it, you'll be able to see how all these teachings in Buddhism are the truth that will not be overturned by anything in this world. In fact, the truth and the reality of our relative world are completely not like how we perceive it, but we receive such false information, and upon hearing this truth of the truth of the world, then we know that those are not those extreme measures are not the only ways that we can resolve any problems happening in our world. The next one is wonderful arm bodhisattva or Subahu bodhisattva. Why wonderful arms? Because once you have the arm of helping others, it's arm of skillful means, then the bodhisattva has a great ability of benefiting others. The aspiration of bodhisattva and the aspiration of Shravaka constitute a reality in our relative world. If one contemplates that the characteristics of mind, some of them says characteristic of mind, some doesn't have the word characteristic, such as the Tibetan version as well as the Sanskrit version. It all says that they are empty, they're illusory, but they don't have the word of characteristic. For people who understand this, once you understand that the nature of all phenomena are like the space that appears but nothing to be grasped onto, and relatively everything appears in this space, then you'll be able to understand how this illusory mind, how this illusory mind is.
不管是从30方面也好，就是从这个来源住处去处也好，颜色形状这个相状也好，很多方面观察的时候呢，
the coming, abiding, going, the color and the shape, all of those, once you use all those kind of forms to, all those kind of questions to observe your mind, you'll be able to see that your mind is nowhere to be obtained. That's the seventh bodhisattva. The eighth bodhisattva is Pushya bodhisattva. It is a name of a constellation.
其实这是28种这个什么这个
It is one of the constellations out of 28 constellations. It's an auspicious constellation. This constellation was in this space when the Buddha was born. So this bodhisattva was born, he was born under this constellation. And Pushya is a Sanskrit. It means that the king of constellations. And it says that what is good and what is not good constitute a duality. Good is said to be good contains the 10 virtuous actions, and not good means the non-virtuous actions.
就观察的时候不得到的话呢，那么不散呢，就是也不可能有的啊，就不散，因为他们两个是互相关联的，怎么会是有不散呢？就是不散也是什么没有的。那么这样的话呢，善和不善二在没有的话呢，就是如意什么呢？就是无相法，那么通到这的话呢，是真正的这个如意无万法。这里的变呢，就是善和不善的这个变呢，就是都断出了。所以善和不善
good and not good are all eradicated. These kind of extremes are talked about during the talk of ultimate truth. The sixth patriarch, when he received the bowl which represents the inheritance of the lineage, the fifth patriarch, after giving him the bowl, then asked him to run away as fast as possible. So a group of people during the day started chasing the sixth patriarch, one of which is a general. And at that time, the general was really fast and finally caught up with the sixth patriarch. And the sixth patriarch then the sixth patriarch was hiding inside bushes. Finally, the general said that I'm not here to ask for the bowl of this authority of lineage. Rather, I am here to search for the teaching from you. And then at that time, sixth patriarch came out of the bush and started teaching him that there is no dirty, no purity, no filth, no purity. There's no sin, there's no merits, there's no benefit, and there's no loss. And at that time, that's where the nirvana abides in between. Do not search for it elsewhere. And upon hearing this verse taught by the sixth patriarch, the general then got enlightened right on the spot.
这样的这个事项啊，就是如果我们这个没有通达，
So there's no good and no not good right in between there. That is the extinction nature, and you should not search for it elsewhere. But of course, in our relative world, we should not foolishly pursue such kind of action of not good and pursue such action that's not virtuous. There's a story told by the Zen in the Zen tradition where Master Baizhang was teaching in the mountains, and a great assembly of disciples was listening to his propagation of the Dharma, and there was an old man who often stays behind and who listens to Master Baizhang's teaching very attentively. One day after the teaching, the Master Baizhang approached this old man and asked him why he stayed behind, and then the old man answered saying that I was also a Dharma teacher, but because I taught something and I taught something wrong, and then I was reborn as a fox for 500 lifetimes, then could you please teach me the correct way of teaching this particular part so that I will attain liberation? When this old man was a Dharma teacher, someone came to him and asked him, as a great practitioner, is he still bound by the karma? The master, this old man, at that time, the Dharma teacher told him that no, you're not bound by karma anymore, and that's why he was born as a fox for 500 lifetimes. And then he requested Master Baizhang to teach him what's the right way of teaching this. The Master Baizhang said that it doesn't matter how big of a great master you are, the karma is still truthful. So upon hearing this, the wild fox who appeared as this old man said that, okay, I understand, and attend liberation on the spot. So we can see that upon saying a wrong word of karma gives such result and consequence as being reborn as a wild fox for 500 lifetimes, then you will see that the karma is true, and you cannot practice non-virtuous when your realization level is not to the level of non-duality yet. As Padmasambhava said that. Your view should be as high as the space, as vast as the space, but your action should be as careful as the flower, as the powder of a flower. The next one is Lion Bodhisattva or Simha Bodhisattva. He said that transgression and blessings constitute a duality. The duality that the transgression of self and transgression that is punished by or punished by the Buddha. If one penetrates the nature of transgression, then it is not different from blessings. Once you understand the nature of transgression, then it is not different from the blessing. And what's the tool? The tool is Vajra wisdom, the wisdom of knowing the truth. Just as a Vajra just as if a Vajra falls from the sky, nothing in this world could stop it. It could pierce the mountain, it could fall into ground. It could destroy all kinds of phenomena, all kinds of existence. So with this kind of wisdom that it could penetrate all, you can use such wisdom to definitively comprehend this characteristic and to be neither in bondage nor emancipated is to enter the Dharma gate of non-duality. In the meditating on Samantabhadra Sutra, it says that all karmic obscurations, as vast as the sea, arise from delusion. All of such karmic obscurations and transgressions arise from delusion. To gain purification, confess by sitting in meditation. If you really want to purify all those transgressions and repent, then first you have to meditate, contemplating on the ultimate truth, like frost and dewdrops evaporate while exposed to the sun. All negative karmas are purified with the emergence of wisdom. This is the ultimate teaching, the chanting of the ultimate truth. To abide in the ultimate truth, to see the ultimate truth. And then at that time, all the transgressions can be purified. So at the end, in the Dharma gate of non-duality, as it is said in the Doha of Enlightenment, it says that there's no transgression, no merit, there's no increasing, there's no decreasing, there's no bondage, there's no bondage. When people see the English version of the PowerPoints, everyone would sit like that, so completely bored. Anyhow, in that Doha, it says that upon seeing the true nature of it, they are non-existent. Anyhow, so during our purification, during our repentance, especially as Vajrasattva practice, once you have such kind of level of realization, that would be wonderful. So we'll stop here today.